Jim Page, where do we start? Well, normally eulogies, you're going to start with all the accolades and all the great things. But before I get to the fun stuff, I want to talk about how Dad dealt with diversity. To me, that really defines the character of a man on how they deal with adversity. Most of you know that Dad was a recovering alcoholic. And I got to tell you the story. So, Marcia, Dave, and I were already out of college. I was maybe 25 or so, and we just saw this pillar of a man. But we started hearing stories back from the store staff and Mom, and we knew it was really, really serious. So what we did is we went into solution mode, and we decided we had to get him into treatment, and we had to do the horrible major TV movie intervention, right? Never any fun. So we're doing this, we start doing this, and it's in our living room at home. And it was maybe, what, 8, 10, 12 people around the living room, and we all went through our gut-wrenching speeches to Dad. And the strategy was to have Dad's little girl, Marcia, close and say, we have a 28-day, we have a bed for you at St. Mary's, one of the best places in the entire country. We're set for 28 days, and we'd like to take you there. And the only thing he said was, do I have time to shop? And he stayed sober till the day he died, 27 and a half years. If that doesn't define his grace and character, I don't know what does. But let's talk about the cool stuff, right? So I'm going to talk about, and where do you start with Jim, right? We could be here for an hour, 2 hours, 2 days. But so I narrowed it down to 4 themes. I want to talk about his business, and then I want to talk about hunting, his hunting trip. Third, I want to talk about his running career. Finally, we got to talk about corn cattle days. So first of all, his business. Dad was a marvelous business person, but even more than his business acumen, he was an incredible mentor. He mentored many of us in this room, including Sarah Maher, including Libby Revere, many of us, and anybody who wanted his mentorship. And a couple things that came to mind is he talked about, he said, and this is one of the Jimisms in the programs, thou shalt make a profit. Don't feel bad about it. Go ahead, you can make a profit, and if you're going to be in business, go ahead and make a profit and learn how to make money. But he taught some of these business methods to us, and I just remember a couple. We could go on forever, but I remember a couple. First of all, we started in the drugstore. He mentored us 3 literally barely after we could walk. I remember vividly, and I'm not making it up. It sounds like a cocktail story. It's true. So I remember, maybe I was 4, Dave was 6, Marcia was 7, 8, and I remember vividly blowing up. We had this old, had to be 40 years old by that time, an old steel compressor, and we were blowing up balloons for Crazy Days. And then by the time we could reach up to the till, 8, 9, we were serving customers. We were treating customers. He said the customer truly is always right. Make sure you know that. And I think the best one is he taught us how to count change. Now I'm not talking count change today that they're teaching the millennials. They say look at the little number and count it back. No, that's not the right way. Rich McCabe knows. He was retail his whole life. So it's $2.50 out of a $10 bill. It's $2.50. It's $2.75. It's $3, $4, $5, and $10. That is counting change, and he taught it to all of us. Anyway, so now let me toggle to the hunting trip. Dad had a love affair with the West. Absolutely loved it. So he hunted for 60 full years out in Wyoming, Colorado, and maybe Montana. The first 30 were with his buddies before we were young enough to hunt with them. And then the last 30, it was all family. And they're all here in the room. It was myself, my big brother Dave, his dad's brother Keith, John Hugenbecker, his son-in-law, and 2 first cousins, Jeff and John Youngman, all here in the room. It was our annual pilgrimage, and it was so important to him. And we planned it for the whole year. Drove Marcia nuts. Yeah, oh, God, we're not going to talk honey now. And we can get it out of the way. And this annual trip of adventure of the West, it just meant so much to him, and it was our bonding time. So, in fact, Marcia was a little envious that we got the bonding time, but then she stole him to Florida for about 6 weeks every day. Anyway. Now, let me toggle to, let's get back to Olivia, and I want to talk about his running career. Everyone knows Dad was an avid runner. And he started running in the 70s, well before it was popular. And it was him and Dick Hagan, who were the main runners in town. And he didn't care about fashion. He ran in black socks. Until he saw a cover of Running World and the guys wore white socks. I better change. So, and he had run 18 marathons. The first 13 Twin Cities marathons, 4 Duluth marathons, and 1 Honolulu marathon, in addition to countless 5Ks and 10Ks. And the great thing is Gordy Boehm said just when we were talking about the funeral about 3 days ago, he was a fixture on 212. So from here to Berta Island and beyond, when he started training for marathons, he was a fixture. In fact, you could almost set his watch by him. Oh, Jim's on his way home at the second curve. It must be about 6. It's 6:15. And he loved it. And you know what he always said, and a big part about it was, he did like to compete, but a big part of it was the health. And he always said, I'm going to live till 90. And he was only 2.5 years short. That's a pretty darn close to a good goal there. So now, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Corn Cattle Days. Corn Cattle Days, this was it. And the way this happened, of course there were Corn Cattle Days earlier, but we started this party in 1986, and it continued to grow, and it turned into this pilgrimage for other people coming back, friends, family, anybody who wanted to join in on this. And it was a chance for Dad it was another chance for him to see people, and it was great. And it was an open door policy. They made this marvelous food every year, and it was something everybody looked forward to. And it was on everybody's calendar. Everybody knew it. It's funny. People would say, when's Corn Cattle Days? It's the 4th Saturday of July. Like it's been for the last 50 years. You gotta keep reminding me. Anyway. And then we better toggle a subset of Corn Cattle Days, of course, the floats. Mom was the artist. Mom was the design person. She was the visionary. But Dad was the master implementer on those floats. He spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. And Mom would just say, Jim. And that's all I had to hear. And this is interesting. The legacy goes so deep. We, as kids, were in parades that our parents built for us, floats and costumes. Then we did it, that ended up way in this huge legacy of all these grand floats. And we're talking, there's pictures of them in the back. Huge, huge floats. And then it even, after we finally retired, and the last youngest kid was like 17, they finally kicked us out. They're not kids anymore, pictures. But at the end, so then what we did is we took we took the tradition and brought it to our place. We live on a lake in Chanhassen, and there's a boat parade every 4th of July. So I started out making, copy. The first one was the Viking ship. And so what Dad did, and Dad goes, what can I do to help? And I go, well, I need cardboard, Dad. So he went into cardboard mold. So he would go, now bear in mind, this is just 2 years ago, 85 years old. He's dumpster diving into the big dumpster behind Dirks's. And he had this little kit, his dumpster diving kit was a ladder, and there was a hole. And I think there was one time I literally, like the old days, literally held him in. We need that one. So, yeah, And it was just a marvelous tradition that we lived corn capital days on the floats. Now, how do we close? There's two different stories I want to tell in closing. One is there's a great movie, and it's called, and many of you have seen it, it's called Secondhand Lions. And it's with Michael Caine and Robert Duvall. And they play these 90-year-old prodigy guys. But they had this marvelous life, and they did all these flashbacks and told their adopted grandson, I think, all these marvelous stories. They sounded like spinning yarns, but they were actually true in the book. And then at the very bitter end, the sheriff comes back to the adopted son, and he said, well, we had two 90-year-olds, unlicensed pilots, flying a plane that they built, doing aerobatics. I can safely say they went out with their boots on. So Dad, 6 months ago, you ran the 5K in Olivia. A little over 60 days ago, he was crawling on his belly, stalking a deer at 87 and a half. He went out with his boots on. Jim Page went out with his boots on. So now, what I really want to close with is, it ties into all of this, and especially the hunting trip, is we were huge fans of Lonesome Dove, almost fanatics. Who has read it or seen it? Yeah, a lot of them. Okay. So, and it was just a marvelous piece of cinema. I'm a little biased, but I think it's the best on the ever done. So, and it was two legends. It was with Gus was played by Robert Duvall, and Tommy Lee Jones played Woodrow. And we would quote them at hunting. First of all, we'd watch it on the way out there, and then while butchering. 3 full times, 24 hours a day. And we do all these quotes. And there's a marvelous scene. It was an 8-hour miniseries. The end of hour 6, I know it well. There was a marvelous scene. Gus was dying. And Woodrow was there. They were best lifelong friends. And he said, and they were bickering about stuff, and Gus made him, part of the story was Gus made him take him all the way back and bury him 3,000 miles in Texas. And he goes, you sure you don't want me to take you to South Pole? And he goes, no, that's fine. So they continued talking a couple things, and the way it closed is Gus, and it really was touching, Gus said to his best friend Woodrow, it's been quite a party. Jim Page, it's been quite a party. Dad, it's been quite a party. Say it, Mom. We'll see you soon.